So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the last class of evaluation of training program. So far, what we have done in the previous classes is whatever you see in green. So we've covered all that. In the last class today, what we will do is report writing and training process audit. Once we are done with that, we'll also discuss question papers. I have last year's paper that we could discuss, so we will discuss the question paper and also see how best we can answer to it. And if you have any questions and assignments, we could also take that up. With that, let's get started. I think I'll just go through this deck. If you have any questions at any point, let me know so that I could answer. Otherwise, I'll move to report writing. This is just like a refresher to know. This is all we've covered. Any questions, friends, before I move on to report writing and start the session for today? Okay, I'm assuming no questions. So, I think in all these classes, what we've understood it, what are the ways we have to, what are the ways we can evaluate, what are the different, what is the purpose of evaluation, need, how to evaluate, all that we've done. So today what we will do is, we'll understand the report. Now that you've done the evaluation, you've used the tools, you are there right now. As a next step, what you need to do is you need to report. And reporting is also a very important skill. You need to know because the report, people will only know your hard work based on the report you send, because you can't send them, you'll only send them a summary, and that summary tells people the work that you have done with the form. So that's where report becomes, because that's the output of the whole training evaluation. And only when your report is good, it involves, the presenting information in a very clear, concise, organized manner. And you have to also put your recommendations to the audience. So let's see what are the guidelines. So first is define the purpose, tell them what you did the evaluation for, and also identify who the audience is, for whom are you targeting the report. Many a times it helps to tweak the report depending on who the audience is. For business, it might be very different. If it's for HR, you will call out on points that HR would be interested in. For business, you'll highlight the points which are useful to the business. So that way, I would recommend that have the overall report would be same, but the key points that you would highlight for different set of audience will be different. So always have this multiple formats. So that it targets to the audience, it speaks to the audience you are sending the report to. Structure the report, it's very important. Use clear and concise language. In Accenture, there's always this joke, I don't know if you've heard or not, but in Accenture, we have a lot of acronyms. It takes somebody a year to even understand the acronyms, and even then people will not know. So we have so many acronyms, but I think, and when you write the report, it should be clear. It shouldn't have too many acronyms. You should use plain language, avoid jargons or technical terms, which might be unfamiliar to the audience. Be to the point. Don't have to write history. When you are writing the report, it has to be to the point, and only then it will be appreciated. People will not like unnecessary information or long verbose documents. Use bullet point, list, and data has to talk. So ensure it is in a in a format which is easily digestible. So provide evidence and support. Yes, maintain consistency. It could be with the font, it could be with the data. If you're using the same color, use the tables in the same color. So everything has to be consistent. Don't change things. Don't start using colors all of a sudden. Don't stop using colors all of a sudden. The format, it has to be consistent. Proofread and edit, it's very important. Always proofread. Never send anything without proofreading. So it could be small mistakes, but it's ensure that review the report carefully for grammar, punctuation, spelling. And ensure that there is story. So more than anything, I think the story should flow well. You should tell people the story as to what this was done, what was the analysis, what are your recommendations. It should flow. So that story has to come out well in your report. And also ask for feedback. Tell them that, uh, before you finalize, show it to your colleagues. Or, I spoke to you in one of the sessions, about learning champions. Share this with the learning champions, or ask them what is it that they look for in the report, so that you know what are they looking for and it's targeting, so that they don't get surprised. So check with their learning champions, colleagues, and also have somebody else review it. So sometimes when you keep making a report, there are chances that you might miss out, not because you want to, but because of oversight. Sometimes when you keep looking at the data, everything starts looking correct to you. And even simple format issues, you may not be able to identify, but somebody else does. So always have this peer or somebody else have a look at it. And I think I did speak about format. Usually font size has to be depending on organizations. If you have a corporate font that you use that. Otherwise, 11 or 12 font size should be good. Use headings, subheadings, uh, format wherever it's bold, italics, wherever it's important to highlight where it is, to highlight the points that you would want people to look at. So I think this is very important when it comes to report writing. Uh, we'll move on to the structure of the report, but I'll take a pause. Any questions at this point, anyone? If there are any questions on the chat, I haven't checked.
No, ma'am.
Ma'am, are there different formats for different kind of reports or nearly the same?
Formats you're asking?
Yeah.
There is no, usually you follow the template that the organizations have. Otherwise, it's just this. This is the structure. You start with the title, table of content, introduction. So this is the structure. So, and the template, if your organization has any specific template, use that. Otherwise, this is how you can structure it if you're doing it afresh and there is no such format available in your organization.
All right. Thank you.
So anybody else before we move on to the structure? So as I said, if you don't have any format, this is what you would follow. Always have a title page. Title includes what is the report, who has written it, the date, any other relevant information. Table of content, it's very important. Clear outline, including headings, subheadings, introduce the topic, provide background information, give a bit of history as to why. Let's assume that you are doing a training. So talk about when was this training started? Was it started in this year, or was it started long back, about 4 years, 5 years? What has been the trend? So what was the objective? So give that introduction so that the person who's reading the report doesn't have to go back and look, okay, what is this program all about? So the introduction should talk about from the time the program has started. It should give not in too many words, but it should give them an overview of what the program is, what has been done, maybe links to the previous reports if possible. So it should be very comprehensive. People should not look elsewhere for information. Your report should talk about everything. Main body is critical. Talk about your main findings. What is the analysis you've done? Discussion points, if there are any. So this is very important. Here is where you will convey whatever is your, you will not do your recommendations. Recommendations come towards the end, but here you'll talk about how did you go about doing it? So that core becomes very key, because that's where you will, that's the crux of your whole report. Then you will talk about conclusion, what were your finding, insights, and recommendations. If there are quite a few recommendations, you will put them on a separate tab. Otherwise, it could be part of conclusion. But if there are key recommendations that you would want the business or the HR or any of your stakeholders to focus on, put them as a separate heading and talk about recommendations. Never forget to add references and appendix. So this is how the report should be structured. I'll take another pause for you all to go through this, see if you have any questions, and then we can discuss. Okay, so moving on. Next is training process audit. There are quite a few of you on the call. So tell me how many of you have gone through audit, training audit. You can raise your hands, unmute, whatever is convenient. How many of you have gone through training audit?
No, I have not gone through any training audit.
Okay. Nobody has done any audit?
It's I mean, we are audited or we have done audit.
You have been audited from the training team. Usually that could be ISO 27001, depending on which organization you are. So there are audits that you have to face as a training team. Nobody here? Okay. So how many of you have done audit? Okay, Garima, you were talking about doing audits. Have you conducted audits? Anybody in this group has conducted audits?
Yes, ma'am, I have done it.
Okay, so talk about your experience and what is key when you do audit, or why is it audit? Why is audit done?
We have a defined checklist, and as per the checklist, we have to check each and every documentation part, this process part, and this basically the statutory norms which are applicable to the particular industry. So based on that, we have to conduct an audit, and primarily we have focus on safety, health, and environment also. So that type of audit we have done.
Okay. So that is the industry is safety, is it?
Correct, ma'am.
Okay. Got that. Anybody else? Garima, would you like to share? I think you wanted to.
Ma'am, actually, I work in an educational setup, so we don't actually have that audit sort of things. But yes, our training sessions are audited, and we also audit the junior trainers session or faculty sessions for the betterment of the process which we are following.
Okay. So good. I think none of you in this group have gone through audit, but audits are pretty, yeah. Yes,
Audit related is mainly, if I understand it correctly, whatever task has been allocated to your department, have you been able to do that task as per the guidelines? And an internal audit or external audit can come into picture, and then they decide as to what were the number of programs that were supposed to be conducted, where it was supposed to be conducted, the instruments and the books that were used, the financial part of it that were used. So was that in as per alignment with the organization or not? And sometimes there can be an external audit also, mainly in the terms of if an organization is big and they want to get it certified from an external source, like PricewaterhouseCoopers. There are some external agencies who conduct these type of audit.
perfect. I think you've made my job easy, Jigar. So what Jigar said is perfectly correct. So many organizations go through, especially if you want to get certified. As organizations become bigger, these certifications matter because when you go to the client, you need these credentials. You need to show them that your processes are audited by an external agency. So that's about external, but internally also many small organizations go through it. If you are owning a training department, it is good that you have your audit in place. And what happens in these audit? So before you get audited, there's always a training process manual. Many of you here have a process manual, training process manual, which talks about why is the training department formed, what are the objectives of the training department, how do you get people for training, what kind of trainings you do, how do you collect attendance, how do you capture ROI. Do you have any process document? Anybody has it? Okay,
Not exactly, but
yeah.
yes, after every module, we have such kind of thing. We specify the objective, the process, some activities will be there. And at last, we given toll gate kind of, what can say, assessment to assess their understanding and is ROI achieved. So This is a part of it. With every module, we do this with our students.
So good, yeah. So I think training process manual is something that usually a training department has, and anybody. And I'll take you through what happens in the audit, maybe based on my experience. I will just run you through what happens if it's so audits, as Jigar said, can be internal or external. If it's an internal audit, it usually happens. Internal audits happen before the external audit to prep you. So they pose as auditors, the audit team, they come, they ask you for information. They'll ask you for proof. So let's say you've come and they'll ask you for attendance sheets. So you have to have signed attendance sheets from the training programs, feedback forms. So they will ask you for documentation. They will look at your training process manual. And where if you say that you do training evaluation, they'll ask you what is it, if they'll ask you for a report. So whatever you've committed to in your training manual, they will keep the training manual in front of them and they will audit it. For everything, they will say, okay, now you're saying attendance. So you capture attendance online or you capture attendance sheets. If attendance sheets, give us the proof. If online, how do you do it? So, and what do you do when people don't attend the training? So is there a mail that is sent to supervisors? Give us a copy of those mails. So this is how, whatever you tell them that you would do, and manual usually has it, saying if people don't attend, we do, or we send feedback form, or we do 30, 60, 90-degree evaluation. They'll ask us, what is the proof for 30? What is the proof for 60? So this is some documentation that you need to provide. So, but in short, training process audit is to check whether everything is happening as per your commitment. So whatever you've committed, are you doing things as per that? You have a checklist and you check whether you've done it properly or not. So this is the overall training process audit. So it's a systematic and comprehensive review of an organization's training process, program, practices to assess their effectiveness, efficiency, and alignment with organizational goals and objectives. So many times we might do audit in our own way. If it's a smaller organization, if you're seeing that a training program is it's not beneficial, it's not aligning, you might run 2 batches and then you may not do it. But then you're auditing it. What is it that you're doing? You audit it and you find out, and you found out that it's not helping you. So many times you may not do it in form of an audit, but in some way or the other, you definitely audit the practices to check whether they are happening well or not. If not, you bring in some remedial measures to correct it and to ensure that the processes are efficient and they're aligned with your organizational goals and objectives. Any questions, any thoughts any of you would like to share at this point before we move on? Anything from your experience? Okay, so let's look at some key aspects of evaluating, of training audit. So first, there are certain key aspects and let's look at that. The first is evaluation of training programs. So assessing the design, delivery, and outcome of training programs is important to determine their effectiveness in meeting the learning objective, the objective that you have come up with, and the training objectives and the organization needs. So you have to check whether they have been effective in meeting your organization needs or not. And mainly the audit is done to identify the strengths and weaknesses in the training function, and it ensures compliance with policies and regulations, and it also will make recommendation for improvement. So once the audit is done, the audit team, either it is external or internal, they'll come back with their findings. And these findings are not to criticize the team, but to help the team improve their function as a training department, as a function, to ensure that they are compliant. So it's just a third person looking at your processes to give you their perspective. So, and then when they also, so evaluation of training program is one, trainer qualification and performance. So they check whether reviewing the qualifications, competencies, they'll check whether, do you look at vendors? So what is the qualification? Whether the trainers are capable of delivering high quality training. They might ask you for proof. They'll ask you for samples of who have been the trainers. So they'll do a check whether the trainer was efficient enough to do it or not. They'll check your training need assessment. examining the process, they'll check to identify what is, do you do manual process, or do you have a automated training needs assessment? They'll check who all you speak to. Is it the same people, or you do a random sampling? So they check within the organization how is it that you are getting the training needs, and they ensure that all training initiatives are aligned with the organizational goals. So these are some of the things that they do. Any questions at this point? Okay. So we move on.
No questions.
Okay. Training resources and infrastructure. They also look at training resources. They will check whether the resources are available, they are adequate, such as training facilities, equipment, materials. Many a times, this could be another way. If you are getting through an audit also tells you that the equipment needs to be replaced. That's one more way that you could go to the business and say that these are the things that we need. So audit also helps you because they will assess whether the systems are adequate for everybody. What if you have a computer and it's only 2 and you have 20 people? So it could be students. But see, the audit can be done whether it's an educational institution, whether it's a manufacturing unit, any industry you belong to. So irrespective of the industry, audit comes in handy. They also check for compliance and documentation. They'll check the training activities are conducted in compliance with policies, regulations, and standards. Sometimes many of these organizations, I don't know if you all do, but we never go. It's a good practice not to go just with one vendor all the time. We evaluate 3 vendors. We take the quotes from 3 or 4, minimum 3 vendors. We take the quotes from them and then decide, than going through with the same vendor all the time. Anybody else follows that?
I think majority of the organization will go for multiple options so that they get to choose between the best.
Yes, so that's the healthy practice. We shouldn't stick with one and go with them because it's always good. And every time it has to be 3, even if you're doing a separate batch, every time you do this, it's always good to reach out. So they will check whether you are complying, whether you look at different vendors so that there is no favoritism and the process doesn't get deviated. They will review the documentation, needs assessment, training plan, evaluation, participant records. Sometimes there are instances where participants' records might be fudged. So they look at all that to ensure that there is everything is in place. So evaluation and feedback mechanism, they review the methods that you use for evaluating training, effectiveness, gather feedback, how evaluation results are used. They'll ask you, how do you use it to improve training programs? So they'll ask you hard questions, which helps you get better as a training department. Post-training support and follow-up. They'll also check whether there is a provision for post-training support to reinforce learning. They'll assess if the effectiveness, if these activities that you do, how effective they are. And continuous improvement is the last. So they identify opportunities for continuous improvement in the training function, including recommendations. They will tell you how to enhance training program, processes, and practices based on the audit findings. So these are some of the key aspects. Any questions before we move on to how to perform audit? Okay, so now let's look at how to perform these audits. So I think the first thing or the first basic is do not neglect the basics. So if look at what you have, your report should be error-free. You should be very mindful of the audit. You should be very mindful of the audit. And I think the first thing you need to do is to check whether you have all the documentation in place. So that's very important. And when I talk about documentation, it could be attendance, it could be feedback forms, it could be post-training if you do any evaluation. So keep all that in place. So that's very important. And the next step when you have to identify is when you know when the audit is, keep everything handy. They'll always ask for proof for the report. They'll always ask for it. They'll ask you for documentation. Ensure that the documentation is in the right place and it's handy so that you can hand it over to them. And be always honest to the training audit. Audits usually scare people because they are. And but always know that audit helps you to always be better at your job, be better as a training function. So that's important to know, and always be honest with the auditors so that they will tell you, the audit report in the end will tell you how to be better at it. So that's very important. And so that's all I think about the audit. And any other questions that you have on training audits?
No questions from my side.
Okay. We'll talk about managing the audit process next. How do you manage the audit process? So it involves overseeing and coordinating all activities related to conducting a thorough and effective audit. So here are some key steps which are involved. First one is planning. You need to define the scope and objectives of the audit, including the areas and processes to be audited. Establish a timeline, allocate resources, including personnel and budget for the audit. Establish a timeline, then you develop an audit plan outlining the approach, methodology, and specific audit procedures to be followed. Next is preparation. Gather relevant documentation, including policies, procedures, records, previous audit reports, which will help you. Then communicate with key stakeholders, including auditees, audit team members, to ensure what is it that is there in their mind, what is it that they are looking for when they are doing the audit. Then comes execution, conduct field activities, including interviews, observations, in accordance with your audit plan. Document these findings, including any issues, observations, and areas for non-compliance. Communicate with auditees to discuss preliminary findings. So many a times, so this is more when you are doing the audit. You can also plan for internal audit for your team. The external team has their own, but when you do your audit, these are some things that you could do. Then reporting, prepare an audit report, documenting the results, including findings. Follow up, monitor the implementation of corrective actions, recommendations, continuous improvement. So I think, yeah, this is pretty much it. We can also look at training audit checklist. I think in your book, there is a pretty elaborate checklist for training audit. I think it's on page number 100. If you have your book handy, if you look at your page number 100, you will have a very detailed checklist there. I couldn't replicate it on the deck, so I thought, I'll just take you through that. If you all have a minute, you can go through the checklist that's given. It's about 4-5 pages long, which is pretty exhaustive. That will tell you how exhaustive a training audit can be. If you see, there are different levels. There is organizational level, there is project level, there is in project, you have training calendar, training organizational evaluation, training plans, training schedule, project specific note, training material. So it's pretty exhaustive. So you could always have a look at it. And the reason that you have this checklist, it makes things easy. So when you have a checklist, and I think in fact, just not for audit, for all of my training programs, I think I also spoke about the journey programs that we do. So for all my programs, I have a checklist. It makes things easy because I know when to schedule a call, who to schedule a call with, what is done versus what is not done. It's very easy when you have a checklist, and it helps you not to drop the ball because you know that you're covering everything. And even however busy multiple programs you are doing, you will not drop the ball. Everything is there as part of the checklist. So I think having a checklist, not just for audit, but for anything is very key because I diligently follow. For all my programs, I have a checklist. I think with this, we've come to an end with what I had planned. What I will do next is discuss question and answers. But if you have anything that you want to ask with respect to the content, feel free to ask me questions. Otherwise, we could look at your assignment questions and the past question papers.
Ma'am, how that was I was asked about to ask in examination, how would this training audit checklist could be asked? I mean, to make it or to how?
Yeah, so I'll discuss the questions and we will come through that. So when we look at the questions, they'll mainly ask you why is audit required, and if they ask you, you'll have to summarize the checklist. So you don't have to give them the in-depth checklist, but you will say why is checklist important, and whatever I've given you on the screen here, this is something that you'll be able to replicate in your exam. Than the sample report. So they'll not ask you for the report, but they'll ask you questions. So you can talk about it in this way. Any other questions? Before we move on to the questions. I see a questions in the chat. I don't know what they are. No question. Okay. Anything else? Yes, we sometimes share training report to stakeholders for their audit purpose. Yes. And you are also invited, depending on project, sometimes they'll also invite you. But it's very important to have the documentation in place. Any other questions, people, before we move on to the questions of assignment and the examination? Okay, I'll stop recording at this point because the question papers are all, you need to pay for the questions. So I'm told I'll stop recording at this point and we can discuss the questions. So let me just quickly stop the record.
Madam, kindly keep the recording for this too.
I have been asked by the diploma team to close it, to not, because we'll show the question paper that are there for the previous. So I will stop the recording here.